All right, guys, so we have another example of what some may call cancel culture to share with you. This time, it's the former head of Human Rights Watch has now been blocked from a position he had agreed to because of his Israel criticism. Okay, so let me give you some of the details. This article was written by him, Kenneth Roth. The title is, I once ran Human Rights Watch. Harvard blocked my fellowship over Israel. I was told that my fellowship at the Kennedy School was vetoed over my and Human Rights Watch's criticism of Israel. Okay, here we go. During the 3 decades that I headed Human Rights Watch, I recognized that we would never attract donors who wanted to exempt their favorite country from the objective application of international human rights principles. That is the price of respecting principles. Yet American universities have not articulated a similar rule, and it is unclear whether they follow one. The lack of clarity leaves the impression that major donors might use their contributions to block criticism of certain topics in violation of academic freedom, or even that university administrators might anticipate possible donor objections to a faculty member's views before anyone has to say anything. That seems to be what happened to me at Harvard's Kennedy School. If any academic institution can afford to abide by principle to refuse to compromise academic freedom under real or presumed donor pressure, it is Harvard, the world's richest university. Yet the Kennedy School's dean, Douglas Elmendorf, vetoed a human rights fellowship that had been offered to me because of my criticism of Israel. As best we can tell, donor reaction was his concern. Soon after I announced my departure from Human Rights Watch, the Kennedy School's Carr Center for Human Rights Policy reached out to me to discuss offering me a fellowship. I had long been informally involved with the Carr Center, which seemed like a natural place for me to spend a year as I wrote a book. So I accepted in principle. The only misstep was the dean's approval. The only missing step was the dean's approval, which we all assumed would be a formality. Indeed, in anticipation of my stay at the school, I reached out to the dean to introduce myself. We had a pleasant half-hour conversation. The only hint of a problem came at the end. He asked me whether I had any enemies. So he goes on to say the Chinese government and the Russian government had personally sanctioned him. Rwanda and Saudi Arabia hate him. And then at the end he said the Israeli government undoubtedly detests me too. And so the guy was like, oh, okay, all right. Hung up the phone. A couple weeks later, I'm paraphrasing the rest of this now for you because I read this earlier. He goes, yeah, sorry, not going to work. And, he was trying to figure out, well, why is that? And the bottom line is, to the best they could tell, either there was direct threats from donors who are very pro-Israel that, hey, we're not going to give to Harvard anymore. And so this guy was protecting the donor money effectively, or this guy was just afraid that the donor money would be threatened. And so he sort of let him go preemptively before he even was told by the donors, like, hey, don't do this. But what is crystal clear at this point is that it is because he was critical of Israel. Now, he goes on to explain the arguments that he's seen time and time again. And I'm going to pull it up for you here. There we go. Okay, listen to this part. Human rights advocacy is premised on documenting and publicizing governmental misconduct to shame the government into stopping. That is what Human Rights Watch does to governments worldwide. Wrong paragraph. Okay, let me go to the right one. The other argument that defenders of Israel have been advancing is that Human Rights Watch and I demonize Israel, or that we try to, quote, evoke repulsion and disgust. Usually this is a prelude to charging that we're anti-Semitic. So look at the loaded language there. For one country, your criticisms aren't criticisms. They're actually demonization. Well, hold on. Wait. Isn't that in the eye of the beholder, right? Like, so I criticize Saudi Arabia all the time. Why is that not demonization? Why is it not demonization when I criticize U.S. foreign policy? Why is that not demonization? Why is that just criticism? If somebody is a massive simp and a cuck for U.S. imperialism or for Saudi Arabian genocide, then they would say, hey, oh, you're demonizing. So it's the same word, just with a negative connotation. Criticism versus demonization. Now, you can make the argument, well, actually, no, demonization steps into the level of being unfair. But then I submit to you, okay, well, point out what was unfair. What did he say that was unfair? What did he say that was factually untrue? And they can't do that. You want to know why? Because he hasn't said anything that's factually untrue. And then, like he says, we've seen this before, just call any sort of criticism of the Israeli government anti-Semitic. It is the bastardization of identity politics. It's using it as a shield to deflect from legitimate criticism. That's what it is. And the idea that, oh, you're trying to evoke repulsion and disgust. Well, what if some of the policies in question carried out by the Israeli government, what if they should evoke repulsion and disgust? Then it's the right thing to do. It's like saying, hey, look at apartheid South Africa back when they had it. Let me point out some facts about it. Isn't that repulsive and disgusting? And any reasonable person would say, yeah, I think it is. Any reasonable person would look at Saudi policy towards Yemen, where they're carrying out a genocide, an embargo, a blockade, bombing innocent women and children, bombing mosques and hospitals and open-air markets, and they'd say, that's kind of disgusting. And I am repulsed by that. That's the correct reaction. It's the correct reaction to look at the U.S. invading Iraq illegally, occupying the country, wasting $7 trillion, killing minimum 200,000 innocent civilians, seeing 1 million flee from the country, and say, you know what? That's kind of disgusting. That is the correct reaction. But no, they want to use anti-Semitic as a shield to deflect any and all criticism. It's the same thing when you come out in support of BDS, boycotts, divestment, and sanctions against the occupied territories in Israel. They go, oh, that's anti-Semitic. Why is that anti-Semitic? Was it anti-white or anti-South African to support BDS in regards to apartheid South Africa, trying to force them to give human rights to the black population there? No, we look at that and we say, that was smart politics. It's a way to try to fight back against an injustice using peaceful means, right? So if you fight back violently against illegal Israeli occupation, they call you a terrorist. They say this is terrorism. Even if you say, no, there's just self-defense, they go, no, that's terrorism. Okay, so then you say, if I can't fight back violently, I guess I'll fight back non-violently. We'll do a boycott, or we'll call for divestments, or we'll call for sanctions. And they turn around and go, that's anti-Semitic, you can't do that. So what out are you leaving Palestinians? I'll tell you. The out is do nothing. Sit there and take it. That's the out. You need to actively approve of apartheid, settler colonialism, and extreme oppression. You need to approve of that. You need to be in favor of that. And this guy is not willing to do that. Now, by the way, there are criticisms of Human Rights Watch that I think are fair, right? Like, oftentimes what they do, most of their criticism is just towards official Western enemy states. And sometimes I would argue it's too much of a focus on the enemy states. And it's really not, they don't turn their guns on, our allies and us nearly as much as they should and as they could. But clearly, regardless of my disagreements around the edges, the dude is trying to be some semblance of objective and fair, even if I disagree with, the things he puts the onus on or the emphasis on. And even this, too far. You can point out facts about Israeli occupation, illegal Israeli occupation, apartheid, settler colonialism, and they say that's anti-Semitic, and now we're going to block you from getting a job. And by the way, look, this point has to be made. There are conspiracy theories out there that are genuinely anti-Semitic. The idea that the Jews control everything, they control all of global finance, they pull the strings in the U.S. government, and it goes way, 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 way too far. You look at a story like this and you go, whoever was pulling the strings in this particular instance, they are actively hurting their own cause in the fight against anti-Semitism, because now people look at this and they go, well, this is an instance where you are pulling the strings. Some giant Israel supporters, by the way, it doesn't even have to be, some of them were probably not even Jewish, some of them were probably evangelical Christians, and they support Israel because they think end times is going to happen there and Jesus is going to come back there. But people will look at this, conspiracy-minded people will look at this and they'll go, see, that's proof. It's not proof that there's a Jewish cabal that runs anything and everything. But it is proof that certainly in the context of U.S. politics, criticism of Israel, especially strong criticism of Israel, is not allowed. They're our ally, and you can shut up about it. I mean, we've seen how many examples and how many states has there been new laws that pop up where, you can't criticize BDS. You'll lose a subsidy or a government contract. Remember the story? There was a hurricane that hit Houston, and they said in order to get hurricane relief money, you have to sign a pledge saying you won't criticize Israel, you won't support BDS. Like, what are we talking about? People have lost jobs over this, and now we have another one. Remember, Nathan Robinson lost a job at some publication because of the way he criticized Israel. Why I can rip on the U.S. government all day, every day. I don't lose any job prospects. right? I mean, I could rip on Saudi Arabia all day, every day. I don't lose anything. Some people say it's Islamophobic, but they're idiots, right? Why is it that there's actual cultural power? You just throw the wet blanket of anti-Semitism over it, and then people get fired, and people lose jobs, and people lose opportunity and income. So they are hurting the cause of fighting anti-Semitism, because in their own little way, they are contributing to the idea that Jews run everything, bro. So I don't know, maybe don't get somebody fired just because they criticized Israel. How about that? How about maybe take some responsibility and some accountability and accept academic freedom and inquiry and objective standards and get over your feelings being hurt because, a settler colonial state was accurately criticized. God. So look, there's all different types of cancel culture. There's cancel culture from the left wing, there's cancel culture from the right wing, and then there's cancel culture from the establishment. This is cancel culture from the establishment. That's what this is. You've touched a third rail in establishment politics, and you will not get this prestigious position at this prestigious university because you dared say things that were true. Give the guy his job, fire the guy who was the dean who made this decision. This guy's playing politics all day, every day. This is not some sort of, principled leader who cares about honor and doing the right thing. Get rid of him. Ever since Adpocalypse, when YouTube defunded all independent news and politics overnight, we haven't trusted them. We know they can pull the rug out from underneath us at any time. If you enjoy this content, please consider tipping $1 or $2 per month on the Secular Talk Patreon. Link in the video description box below. Thanks for your support.